Women in the Winner's Circle is made possible by viewers like you and the following. Bryant Heating and Cooling Systems. Bryant has been keeping homes and businesses comfortable since 1904. Bryant offers Puron, the environmentally sound refrigerant of the future. Bryant has been affiliated with racing for 38 years and is the longest-running non-automotive team sponsor at the Indianapolis 500. The Design Group, total communications planning and development, from comprehensive research and strategy to detail-oriented implementation, including identity and branding, marketplace positioning, advertising and printed materials, video, multimedia, and event presentation, serving corporations and professional organizations since 1969.
Hello, I'm Lynn St. James, and I'm currently standing in one of the most famous locations in the world of motorsports, the Winner's Circle at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, the home of the Indianapolis 500, and now the site of the NASCAR Brickyard 400 and the United States Formula One Grand Prix race. And yet, only 3 different women have ever qualified for the Indianapolis 500 since its inception in 1911. And NASCAR lists 45 active drivers. None of those is a woman. In an effort to proactively address this issue, the Lynn St. James Foundation was established in 1993. This not-for-profit organization is deeply committed to the advancement of women in the motorsports industry. From research partnerships with business and academia to driver development programs, the primary goal of the foundation is to promote the success of women in racing and eliminate the inequities facing them in motorsports. In other words, to be a driving force for diversity. As you might expect, a key issue facing women in motorsports is funding, specifically the lack of financial support. So we took a hard look at the current overall sports marketing environment. Were other athletes in other sports lacking the necessary funding, regardless of whether they were male or female? Perhaps women were not significantly represented in the fan base for motorsports, or as targeted product buyers. What could explain why sponsorship dollars and other means of promoting women in motorsports were not forthcoming? Here's some of what we found. Women earn more than $1 trillion annually, and we purchase 81% of all sports apparel. Plus 99% of women consider sponsorship of women's sports to be important. Overall, women's sports have passed the $1 billion mark in total sponsorship revenue, but motorsports did not receive any of those dollars. And here's an interesting fact. Women make up more than 40% of all NASCAR fans and 30% of Indy racing and drag racing fans. Yet, women are significantly underrepresented in the motorsports industry. Auto racing as a whole attracts more than $1.5 billion in sponsorship from North American business. That's more than double the take of the NBA, NFL, NHL, and Major League Baseball combined. So why aren't more sponsorship dollars available to women drivers? In looking at the situation, we have determined this. We not only need to encourage more women to be involved in motorsports, to be in the field of contenders, we need them to get into the winner's circle. We want them to not only compete, but to win, and not just occasionally, but on a regular basis. And not just as drivers, but as important decision makers in the entire sport. Obviously, race car drivers are typically the most visible members of a race team. So on behalf of the Lynn St. James Foundation, we decided to do something that had never been done before. We gathered together some of the most successful women racers of our time, together in one place, at one time, for a first-of-its-kind forum. The women drivers who participated in the event came from all over the United States and Canada and represented all forms of motorsports and all ages, from 12-year-old Katie Hargett to racing legend Janet Guthrie. Our goal for this event was pretty straightforward. It was an examination of how to address the challenges and enhance the opportunities for women in motorsports. More specifically, to enhance the winning opportunities for women in motorsports. What it truly represented was an in-depth celebration of, by, and for women in the winner's circle. For me, the experience was an opportunity of a lifetime. We hope it will be for you as well. And now please join us for this one-of-a-kind celebration of women in the winner's circle.
Ladies and gentlemen, our host for Women in the Winner's Circle is the first woman in the world to manage an America's Cup sailing team, the chairman and CEO of the America True Foundation, and the winner of the 1999 Rolex Yachtswoman of the Year Award. Please welcome the current president of the Women's Sports Foundation, Dawn Riley.
Thank you. I am so pleased to be here today to host this first-of-a-kind event. At the Women's Sports Foundation, we are dedicated to ensuring equal access to participation and leadership opportunities for all girls and women in sports. And in many areas, we do feel that we have made a difference. But many challenges exist, most notably in the world of motorsports. Motorsports is gender neutral, so women compete with men on the track and perhaps more challengingly in the boardroom for sponsorship dollars. And it takes those dollars to get the equipment and the technology, to hire the teams and allow the drivers to reach their full potential. History has proven that women drivers have the talent to succeed, and yet they have not broken into the winner's circle, with a few exceptions. Take, for instance, Shirley Muldowney. She has won the world championship in top fuel drag racing an astonishing 4 times. And Angel Savoy, who is a 3-time world champion in pro bike drag racing. But these are the exceptions in this traditionally male-dominated sport. Granted, there are some motorsports, such as go-karts and quarter midgets, and drag racers that have had a greater number of women involved over the years. But overall, these numbers are not significant enough to allow the best to make it to the top. Why aren't there more sponsorship dollars available to women drivers? Why aren't more opportunities available for women throughout motorsports world as drivers, mechanics, team members, or owners? And why can't the women get the opportunities that they deserve and the recognition that they have earned in the auto racing industry? Sitting on this stage today, we have 21 women who have probably asked themselves these same questions over and over, perhaps even daily. Today, we are going to listen to them and get their thoughts on these issues and many more as we celebrate the successes and address the challenges for women in the winner's circle. Guiding today's discussion is a woman whose racing career is the envy of men and women all over. Lyn St. James made her debut in racing in 1973 and drove her way to success. Here are just some of the highlights of her career. Lyn has held 31 international and national closed-circuit speed records. In 1992, Lyn became the second woman ever to qualify for the Indianapolis 500-mile race at the age of 45. And that year, she became the only woman so far to win the Indianapolis 500 Rookie of the Year award. Today, Lyn's passion is her Driver in Development program, which was established in 1994 to train upcoming talented female drivers. In fact, many of these women on our stage have successfully completed this rigorous program, which prepares drivers to be champions. Lyn is also busy promoting the Lyn St. James Foundation, which has produced today's event and is dedicated to being a driving force for diversity in all sports, but especially in motorsports. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Lyn St. James and the women in the winner's circle.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Dawn, and thanks for the support of the Women's Sports Foundation. You know, in my over 30 years of racing, so many people ask me, well, who else drives race cars? What other women are out there driving race cars? And, so many times I may have been the only one at the racetrack. When moms and dads are now saying it's okay for my little girl to do what my little boy's been doing all of his life, I started to realize there was really a very, very sort of strong grassroots participation. And the more I researched, the more I found out. And the more I found out that these women are winning races. We're not talking about just racing. I mean, it's great that everybody gets to participate, but when we find out that they're winning races, they're winning championships, and yet they're kind of dead-ended, they're not getting where they really have the potential to go, it really sounded like it was time to do something. And it really was from the leadership of the Women's Sports Foundation that kind of helped me realize that what we need to do is get them all together. And not just hear what Lynn St. James has to say about it, but to hear what these drivers, their experiences have, that they can help us help them actually change the current status of things and change the future. This by no means represents all of the winning women racers in the world. This is just a handful that we were able to get to come from all over the country and to come out to Indianapolis and to support us for this Women in the Winner's Circle event. So I thank all of you, and we're just going to talk about the issues. We're going to try to figure out how we can make it better for you today, because today really counts for all of you, and make it better for the ones coming up so that we can really sort of not just be role models, but just show them it can be done, and maybe change the world of motorsports a little bit to say, you know, let's get you more into winner circles now, but also at the very, very top level. This is a quarter midget racer, which is very, very popular, very active in maybe not every part of the country from what I've learned. It's like very popular in the Midwest and certain other parts of the country. Who's raced the quarter midget racer? I know that there is a number of them. I know we got Katie back here. Aaron, that's right. You started racing quarter midgets when?
1988, and I was
How
7.
old? Okay, 7, yeah.
Yep. I started because my father had my older 2 brothers driving, and I was growing up at the track, so I wanted my turn. It certainly wasn't my mother's dream to have me start racing, but I did, and I think it was a great start. We raced every weekend from April to October. We raced different tracks. I traveled the country. It certainly got my fire burning, if you will.
And if I recall, you kind of won some championships and set some records as a quarter midget racer?
Yeah, I can't even tell you the exact details. It was such a long time ago, but I won 3 regional championships, and I was driver of the year for 3 years, and some track records.
You started in go-karts, right, Danica?
Yeah,
So,
I started racing go-karts when I was 10 for much of the same reason. It was just a family sport. It was, you know, some people go boating, we went racing.
I started in 1983 and grew up every Saturday night at racetracks. And when you would go to racetracks, there were very few women racing. And mainly if they did race, they were in the Powder Puff series. Now you go to every racetrack you go to in about every area in the United States, you're seeing a girl competing in one. I don't care if it's street stocks or if it's go-karts or somewhere there's going to be 1, maybe 2 women competing in that series. And the reason that it's taken so long is, first of all, I don't think that the family support was there a long time ago. It just wasn't what they did. I mean, women weren't the ones that were supposed to be doing it. And now you're seeing fathers and mothers that are coming in here, mothers that are taking their daughters around and saying, this is what my daughter does. And it's not a pageant, it's a racer, it's a sport. And I think you're seeing that in girls' sports, softball, soccer, whatever it is, and you're seeing it now so much more in racing. And it's taken us so long. So how do we figure out how to get that moving along a little faster? And financial support is what obviously is going to do that. But this is huge that you see so much more than what you used to see.
But we even need more numbers, I think, because
absolutely.
And another thing I want to throw out here, racing is not offered in the school system. Racing is not offered in your local parks. So we really didn't benefit from Title IX in a direct way, as opposed to some of you athletes sitting out there who may not know that maybe 20 years ago or 25 years ago, we weren't even allowed to play basketball or offered basketball and softball and volleyball and all that. Well, what's happened is this new generation of moms and dads who have now seen this emergence of them, it really has affected us in a different way. So that's one of the reasons why I think you're right, why we have so many more young girls doing it.
I was one of the kids that grew up at the track, so I've been around it since I can remember, and I love it. Wouldn't do anything else.
I started racing because my dad always went out to the track and my brother raced, and I went out there one day and was bored sitting at the track. So I decided to get in a go-kart, and I've been racing karts ever since. And I think that was when I was 11, and I'm 17 now, and it's just escalated to the national level.
My brother raced, he still races, and my father raced, so I was just brought up at the racetrack. In fact, last year we made NASCAR history as the first brother and sister to ever compete in the NASCAR modern era, so that was kind of cool.
We started racing when I was 12 years old. My father used to race NASCAR modified, so it's kind of always been in the family. And we started restoring an antique midget, and from there it just kind of escalated for me to be competitive in racing.
Well, my father and my grandfather were into racing. My dad started racing when he was 12, and it was just a family sport, and it was something that we did. And I finally bugged my parents enough to buy me my own go-kart and started racing and ended up being the most successful one in my family.
My mom, it's nerve-wracking. She doesn't like to watch us. She can't stand to watch us because if we wreck, she freaks out and she can't watch.
My kids, they like the racing and they like to watch and they get into it. Sometimes they don't like the fact that I'm gone, and that's an issue. But that's all they've ever known. You know, when they were little and before they started school, they always went with. And when I was racing karts, it was easy to take them with and have them be part of it. You know, make them check the tire pressures or put a stopwatch in their hand or something like that.
I was bound and determined from the age of 3 that one day I would be able to drive a race car around the track. And then I learned some years later that you could do this for a profession. And that's when I decided it was going to be my career.
I have this question that came up when I was doing a panel with some motorsports media. And so the question was, and I want to sort of put this to you, they said, okay, well now, if there's 100 guys, meaning guy drivers, are vying for one seat in like Winston Cup or Busch or you name any IRL, so there's at least 100 guys, which is very, very logistic, because it's probably a realistic number, are shooting for that one seat, and maybe only one guy gets it. Then what's the problem, girls? Because, wait, you know, there's not 100 of you.
The ratio isn't there to find one really good guy. You have to go through a lot, sure, but can you imagine how long that takes to find one really good woman when we're only one of 100? Yeah, so that's why they're few and far between.
But my answer to him was, if we have to wait until there's 100 women, until our numbers are equal, then it ain't going to happen in our lifetimes. Thank you very much.
Right, no, it's going to happen in the future. I mean, when I go to the races, I'm finally starting to see, I get a lot of little girl fans. They come and bring me posters and bracelets, and they're coming, but they're only 8.
My response to this question that I got when I did this panel was, okay, if we have 25 women, which I think could be realistic fighting for that same one, why not give that one woman out of that 25 a shot, see how far they can go up the ladder, and then that will stimulate or motivate or expose more of those other youngsters, and then I think it would help escalate the numbers. The point I'm making is we're winning, but we're winning in go-karts, we're winning in sort of the middle ranks, and maybe, or in USAC midget racing, which is not necessarily always on television.
Most people, when you get to a level, it's mostly because your family or friends or someone who's taken an interest in you helps you get to that level. And the only way, even if you're successful every weekend, the only way you're going to get to the next level is for sponsorship, a corporate backing or a series backing you or a major company taking you to that next level. There's just no way you can do it on your own. That's why so many people get stuck, because there's nowhere to go. If you don't get that backing, there's nowhere for you to go. You can't do it on your own. You don't have $3 million. You don't have, I mean, I've been in so many deals where they want me to drive, IRL teams who say, we want you to drive for us if we have a sponsor, but if you don't get a sponsor, then someone who does have a sponsor is going to drive.
A mistake I have made, and that I would say to anybody that will take this advice, stay put and win races. Don't get anxious and move ahead too quickly, because you're getting bored with where you are, even though you could be competitive. But maybe you don't have even the funding to stay where you are, so you think, well, I'll look for the funding to go up into this series. If I'm going to look for money, I'd rather go into this series instead of staying maybe where you were competitive because you want to move up so aggressively.
That's a really good point.
But don't get over anxious. Just keep winning races where you are and keep marketing yourself however you can, and it'll eventually, you're going to get that, you're going to get noticed to where, and it's going to take an owner or a sponsor to be able to work those two together. If you have all the money in the world, you still have to figure out that you're going to spend it the right way with the right people, or they're going to take it and be driving Jaguars. It's happened to me. I bought a couple Jaguars, and I'd like to have them back.
For somebody else.
Yes, for somebody else, and they did not go into the race car. Yeah. But we want to be somewhere so badly that
it's hard to say no.
We think we're doing the right thing, whereas maybe just pulling the reins a little bit and staying competitive will get us there quicker. It's going to take time. It's like a songwriter that writes 50,000 songs and sings and sings and sings, and then all of a sudden, like, wow, where did they come from?
Well,
so
I've used
it's the same
Scott
for
Pruitt
us.
as an example. When I used to race with Scott Pruitt, he raced go-karts for 17 years before he got his deal, So it's the same theory. Keep winning where you are. Allison.
Male or female, there's no substitute for proving yourself. No car owner who has already secured the funding is going to take any driver, male or female, and put them in their car. I mean, it's a struggle for female drivers, but we're not alone in that. They're not going to just take anybody and throw them in there. So Shauna's totally right.
We're all out there trying to find that sponsorship money. It's not that it's really easy for them and just hard for us. I mean, everybody has to go out and put that money together, and a lot of people have to bring the sponsorship with them to a team to try and make that scenario work. But that's what I think we need to look at. Is I find that there's a lot of teams out there, a lot of sponsors, a lot of people that can see logically how to put something together for a male, whether that's an automotive part or tobacco or beer, which is not to say that we couldn't promote these things, but I think there are a lot of things out there that make a lot more sense for us, and we're not getting to them. I don't see, Tide or Oreo or something that maybe would be a better fit with a woman. I don't see those on women's fire suits and on their cars, and that's the thing that's tough for me is, what makes sense for us? Where can we, it's not just about, that it's not fair that we're not getting the rides. I mean, if that's the way it has to be done, if male or female, you have to bring those sponsorship dollars to the team to make it happen, then we just need to do a better job at finding the companies or showing the people who make those decisions why this is a good fit.
We have so much power right here in this room to market ourselves differently and to utilize that. I mean, go about it a different way. Figure out a new plan, and you have got to pound it into the owners or the marketing firms that have sold sponsors before, and because it's not routine or it's a little off the road, you have to pull them off the road and say, it's a new time, it's a new era, let's do it this way. I think women in sports all around, and we control that, what we choose to do with how we sell ourselves or market ourselves or compete on the racetrack. We do have to do both. We have to compete and we have to market ourselves.
I think another thing is that if we're not given the proper opportunity with the best car and the best team and the best engineers, I don't care if you're Michael Schumacher, you're not going to win. Look what he did with Ferrari when he first went to him. He was not winning all the races, but now he is. So if we're not given that best car to do it, then it's not going to happen, and we're going to be kicked to the side like before.
You don't know when to just not stop, but like it's a roller coaster. You're up and down, and I was one of the women that got to do the Dodge testing, and of course, nothing ever happened, and I don't even think half of us were even in contact to say that nothing was even going to happen. But then, I'm sitting here with nothing to do, and then all of a sudden I'm offered 4 Craftsman truck races for the next year. And that all came from the Dodge thing. So it's like you get down, and you don't kind of know what to do, and then all of a sudden something else comes. And then you get down, and sort of something else will come. And I guess you just get frustrated in the whole thing. That's how come tense moods can happen, because you don't know which route to go and which way to go. And I think that's the biggest problem that I see in motorsports.
Every athlete that competes has more downtime, more down, when they're down than when they're hot, and probably more losses than wins. And quite frankly, this sport is brutal. It's not for the meek, in miles.
You're not going to win without winning equipment. And of course, the winning equipment costs the money, which is why we're talking about sponsorship. But I think the hardest decision that any driver ever has to make is, do you go and drive that equipment you know is not capable of winning, and maybe you'll drive it to a better position than it has any right to finish at, and somebody will notice? Or do you sit on your hands and wait for the chance to get winning equipment, knowing that you may never in your life get it? That is the toughest decision that any driver ever has to make.
What would you recommend?
Hey, I would drive it if I had to pick it up and carry it on my shoulders.
The first time I went out there and drove, just having so much competition and knowing that you're in control of a vehicle, it's amazing to go out there and compete.
I race because I love it. There's nothing else that compares to the focus and the quote-unquote zone you get in when you're driving a race car.
I just love the adrenaline rush that you get when you go out. It's a lot of fun. Love going fast and turning left.
The best thing about racing is just the exhilaration and just the adrenaline, and it's such a competitive thing. I'm a competitive person naturally, and I just love to compete against people, and it's a great feeling when you win.
Well, I love winning, and I would have to say that the best, and also the competition.
So I like to use NASCAR as a platform to get kids, to motivate them to follow their dreams and get an education and not do drugs.
That's what I want to do. I belong on the racetrack.
Honestly, I think you have to commit to it as an athlete commits to training for a gold medal. You have to get in people's face. They are not going to like you. They're going to get tired of you calling, and probably, 30%, 70% of the time, they're not going to take your phone call. And when you dial the number, they're not going to take it. But you have to call back again, and you have to call back again, and you have to stick notes on their shop door just to show that you've been there. Eventually, they're going to laugh about it, and they're going to let you in. But that's what it takes. I mean, James Finch is a big car owner, one that I know never takes bad equipment to a racetrack. So I knew that I could build a relationship there just by calling. And eventually, when I came back with his team and finished second at Daytona, and it was kind of my road to open it back up again. But it wasn't easy, and I still call James Finch every day and say, when are you going to put me in that Cup car? When are you going to put me in the Cup car? Because I could do so much in there. And right now they're not returning my phone calls, but I'll keep calling, and it'll eventually come back.
Yeah.
And that's what, it's as up and down as it goes. And the time that you feel the worst is really when you got to pick yourself up and go knock on that door again, even though you're hating to do it. You're hating it. But don't let that show. Just go knock on it and say, here I am again.
These people are not going to search you out. They're not going to read the paper and look for women to put in their car. I mean, when you meet them, you have to say, look, I'm Sarah McCune, I've done this, and this is why you should put me in your car, or this is why you consider sponsoring me, or whatever. I mean, you can't wait, and think. I used to think, well, if I win races and I do really well, that, someday someone will call me. And, a couple people have, but most of the time it's been because I was at the track and I met someone and I took the time to talk to them and tell them about myself. And that's how I got, the Roush test. That's how I got the IndyCar test. I mean, you have to tell people about yourself because they're not going to search you out, and they don't really know you. They don't know of you. I mean, there are so little followings, like racing magazines, things like that, that would actually cover what we're doing anyways, that how would they have ever heard of you unless they just, went to your race?
Well, let's talk a little bit about the media on that, because I think that, the media is our communicator. I mean, our race results are what they are, and then the media is who delivers those. How has the media treated you folks? I mean, do you think it's helped your career? Are you prepared with your media? Do you have? Absolutely. Okay. So
I know that's the biggest advantage. It's one aspect that as a female we can all use to our advantage, is that, if you've got, it's a story. They're all looking for something different.
I mean, being a woman has a lot of advantages when you're winning. And when you're not winning, it's not really that much fun because everyone's paying attention to you. Everyone's watching you at the track. They're watching.
No, they're still paying attention to you, though.
Right.
I know
but
it's not,
if you're having a bad weekend, or you're having a bad couple of races, that's also, there's attention there. You're not going to just kind of fly below the radar screen, and but I think it has, obviously positive things.
I think that's a big misconception, though. People assume that because we're women, we get a lot of media attention, and it must be really easy for us to get sponsors. And it doesn't translate. Yeah, we get a lot of attention, and a lot of people think it's kind of a novelty. Ooh, there's a woman here. But that hasn't done anything for me. I have tons of press clippings, but it hasn't turned into something that has made sponsors want to be on a car I'm driving. So, I don't know if there's something we can do that helps that process out, that's going to make those things benefit us, but it is a big misconception that it...
Yeah, everybody thinks it's an automatic because we get so much exposure, and I know from JCPenney, when their sponsorship, I mean, they've got millions of dollars of return, but that wasn't the objective going in, and those are eyeballs, and they can get eyeballs, putting banners up or having billboards up and all that. What they want is increased sales, and really gets into the business side of it, which is why we're working with the University of Indianapolis, who is where we're in their theater right now, to see if we can get some more tangible results.
Yeah, I have boxes of clippings that extend from here to there, and in all those years, 78, 79, 80, 81, 82, 83, when I was still looking for sponsorship, it would be, oh yeah, we can see what really wonderful exposure you bring to your sponsor. I mean, Bryant Heating and Cooling on the front page of the Los Angeles Times, the Chicago Sun-Times, the Chicago Tribune, et cetera, not the front page of the sports section, front page of the newspaper, Bryant, loud and clear. Did that get me any sponsorship for a ride the following year? No. they said, oh yeah, we can see where you're qualifying and finishing in the top 10, and people were saying you couldn't even make the field, and that's really terrific, especially considering what you're driving. Did that help? No. I just hope it's getting better with more and more women.
For those of us that aren't 21 and younger, we don't have time to, we got only a number of years to be able to put this stuff together, and there has to be a better way, a faster way, a smarter way for us to be doing this. And there's separately, especially, maybe drag racing, I don't get the opportunity to meet people that I can talk with about this, where you can talk to other females who are in that same situation, in that mindset of how do we put these deals together, what people do we talk to, what do we need to be taking to them to prove to them that, we're as good, if not a better, spokesperson or vehicle to get their company, whatever it is that they want.
Better driver, too. But NHRA has probably been one of the more successful. I happened to read 2 pages of the success that women have had in racing in NHRA. I mean, do you see that? Could you have any feel for why that's happened? I mean, is it because Shirley Muldowney was so successful and that so many more women just entered into drag racing? Is it because it's easy?
It has a lot to do with it, the fact that Shirley came out and not only ran against the guys, she was very competitive, and I mean, we've seen that in other motorsports, but maybe just drag racing such a small community that it really did kind of kick a lot of doors open and made it very acceptable for the women to race. But I still think if you look at the history of sponsorship, it's still not there. Even though we've seen the women there and more participation and the fact that they've had the opportunity to win more championships, it still hasn't translated into long-term sponsorship dollars coming into the sport for women.
Sponsorship is really something that I battled throughout my whole career.
I do wish that there were more corporate backing from maybe women's products, clothing lines, makeup, hairspray, you name it, just something. We have a lot of women in the stands here, a lot of women fans, a lot of women racers, more so than anybody's even aware of. And I just think if we could get that corporate backing from the women's side of the world, that we would be able to have the financial backing we need to be more successful.
Really, you need a lot of mental strength over here, but it's not, the stamina thing doesn't enter into the package.
Women just aren't as strong as men. I mean, that's just a fact, and there's nothing we can do about that. That's the way God made us. And with drag racing, it's somewhat physical for me because I'm on a motorcycle, but it really, if you're strong enough, but mentally tough enough, you definitely can win this.
Like in drag racing, I always say, you're not one of the boys till you pay for a drum of nitro.
I'd like to ask each of you to think for just a second, and if there's one thing that you could ask that could change in the sport. In other words, if there's one thing that you could just say, if the sport would do this, and I'm just talking about whether it's NH, I'm not necessarily picking on your sanctioning bodies because that you're in, but the world of motorsports, because I still see it as a universal. I mean, there's some little nuances, but it's all the same. If there's one thing that you could just say that could change the way the sport is right now, what would that be?
I love the sport as it is. That's why I got into it. I don't want to change. Maybe I want companies to change a bit in how they go about sponsoring, getting their company out there, but I don't want the sport to change.
Okay.
The marketers, the companies need to open up and give the women a little bit more chance, and then go to the teams and say, okay, now I have the sponsor, but will they give me the chance, kind of like what Danica was going back earlier.
Okay, just remember, the sport also includes marketing people.
Oh,
it
yeah.
isn't just so, I mean, what you're now saying is that you don't want the sport to change as far as the racing part goes, but maybe the marketing of the sport, which is really the responsibility of the sport. I mean, they still control, they talk to all the different sponsors and interact with them and develop programs and campaigns. So, I mean, to say that we would like them, so, okay.
I don't think it's so much the sport that needs to change. I guess it would be better if it was a little cheaper, but I think it's more attitudes that need to change. Yeah. I don't necessarily think it's the sport itself. I mean, obviously we all love racing or we wouldn't be here doing what we're doing, but...
Well, maybe I didn't ask the question right, but yeah, but the something to change and attitudes.
Yeah. Well, I'd say it needs to be cheaper.
when you can prove to them that you can drive, whether it's with a bio or even better, test the car and test against the guys. If you go faster than their driver, which I've done on many occasions, gone faster than their guy driver, then that really holds a lot of credibility with them. They go, whoa, okay, same car, or at least same conditions, and she's faster. And then the most important part is to have them believe in you with the same belief they're going to have as if a guy was doing it.
So we're really all saying the same things, because that's an attitude, and that's an opportunity, and that's having it against the guys in the best equipment, so that means it's an equal shot. I mean, this is all kind of the, it's really...
But I think if you ask any of us, all we want is a fair shot.
As a female, you always have to overcome the barriers that the male said, just being a girl in a male-dominated sport.
I think one of the biggest obstacles that women and anybody in racing face is really trying to get sponsorship for funding for the teams.
After I finish racing quarter midgets, I'd like to race Legends and then IRL cars and eventually NASCAR.
You know, my ultimate goal is not really one specific series or anything. It's to win as many races as I can and be the best that I can be, which hopefully will take me to the highest levels of racing.
I'm planning on going to Rose-Hulman Institute of Technology to become a mechanical engineer. And I want to continue racing something, and my real goal is to be top mechanical engineer for Penske Racing.
It was many years before women were allowed in racing. It's come a very long way. There was one time that Bobby Unser had retired from racing and was running an IndyCar team with Josely Garza. And he had the before you go back to Indy team meeting, and he said there will be no girlfriends in the garage area. There'll be no women in my garage. And after the meeting, I went up to him and I said, Bobby, what would you like me to do for the month of May? And he looked at me and he said, well, son, you're just one of the crew.
Welcome back to our show, Women in the Winner's Circle. We've had some great conversation going on, but we'd like to find out what the audience has to say, so let's bring Dawn Riley back in, the president of the Women's Sports Foundation, and we'll go from there.
I just want to say thank you, Lynn, for leading such a fascinating discussion. And it's amazing what these women on this stage have gone through and the successes that you have achieved to this point, and I'm sure with this much passion that you are going to achieve and continue to achieve.
We're going to get more women in the winner's circle.
We're going to get more women in the winner's circle. But what we'd like to do now is give the audience a chance to participate. So, audience, if you'll just step right up to the microphone and start asking questions.
When you guys put the helmet on and get out on a track with the guys, how are you treated? Are you treated as an equal? For example, Shauna in NASCAR, will they draft with you? Will they not draft with you? Do they single you out and shuffle you to the back?
It's about the car and the equipment that you're in. If you're at Daytona, you are going to get people to go with you if your car's going, because they want to go to the front too. So if you're going to make a pass and you're going, then they're going to go with you. If your car aerodynamically isn't working well enough, that in front sometimes it doesn't work as well as it does in a pack. So you feel that out as you go. But no, I think I've earned enough respect on the speedways that, no, they go with me as a racer. And I've earned that. I've mentally set that frame of mind. You go with me as a racer, and then the equipment also has a lot to do with it. They're not going to go with you if your car's not prepared to go.
Me and a local level, I was basically picked on being a female racer because, I was getting poles, finishing second, very, very consistently leading the points for the year. 12 of the drivers that I compete with week in and week out actually gathered a pool of money to tear my motor down and tear my car completely down because they thought there was something wrong with my car for me to get poles and finish it in the top 5 every week, and finish in second and passing the champion on the outside. There's no way she could do this. Yeah. Well, eventually, needless to say, it got the media, it got national exposure, and that's how a lot of things started escalating for me. But now on the level that I'm at, I get all the respect. I think it's more on a local level, improving yourself. That's where you get sort of singled out and picked on, is whenever you're just starting and earning your respect. But as you get more on a professional level, you get the respect you deserve.
I went through exactly the same thing Deborah did. I was leading the championship. I won just about every race, qualified on the pole for just about every race. And a bunch of my drivers, they had stickers on their car. Everyone had a sticker that said, "Beat the girl." They paid for the past year's track champion to come out and try and beat me. Someone gave up their ride to try and beat me, and I beat him. And so they put money together, and they all tore my entire car down. They came out with a list of 29 things other than the motor. And took my car home in boxes, but they didn't get me. So we ended up winning the championship anyhow.
I think you have to prove yourself on every level. It's like every time that I've sort of moved up a division, at first it's the people staring at you and the people asking you questions, and then, you know, not really wanting you to pass them and being sort of upset when you beat them. But once they see that you're a racer and that you're serious and that you can actually do it, then they become your friends. I mean, I have friends now, really close friends who I beat, and they say, I hate it when you beat me. They still hate it, but they respect me, and they'll come to me and ask me a question, well, how are you doing in this turn, or what kind of stagger are you running, or whatever. So I think it's just earning that respect. You can't go there and expect people to think that you're good. I mean,
And
I don't
that's
go
different
and
with
say
the guys
no,
at all.
not.
Any rookie
Right.
who comes out there has
Right,
to earn the
they're gonna
respect
pick
of the
on
other
them,
people before they're going to trust that person out on the racetrack. So
I think it's always harder for a woman to prove themselves.
I would ask that
Yeah. It takes a
question.
little more time.
How much more time does it take
For
as a
me-
woman?
For me, it's a lot harder. I mean, I race go-karts and I get the respect, but I have to earn it a lot harder than the other guys. I've been called that I've been cheating, just like everybody else here, and it just comes down to the fact that once you prove yourself, then they won't think that.
It took a little longer. It took longer in Winston Cup than it did in Indy cars, but once they understand that you can give them some good competition and you're a clean driver and will give them racing room, then the atmosphere changes.
Are there other roles that women can get involved in besides like driving, like mechanics, crew, all that stuff?
I can answer that one. I've just, along with Texas Motor Speedway and Aaron's sales and lease company, I've just put a team together that will be a 5-off, 5-on female pit crew along with me as a driver. And it is a serious group of athletic women that have been paid to compete in bodybuilding and body shaping sports, of strength training, that have been put together and now are being trained to be a pit crew. That's an odd situation. You're starting to see now pit crews that are just over the wall. A lot of the teams, the main thing that you usually do, are the car chief or the fabricator in the shop is going to be your your rear tire changer, your front tire changer. Usually that's how it works. You work in the shop, you go in. Now there's NASCAR Technical Institute, which I would recommend for anybody that wants to get in the NASCAR world. You go in there, you can train as an engineer, you can train as a chassis specialist. That's really the route I would suggest. And there's also a 5-off, 5-on pit crew training, which if you're an athlete and you want to get into racing, in my world, that's the way to go. Go that route and it'll open some doors for you.
Women can do just about anything.
Yeah.
I mean,
There's
I have a mechanical
engineers,
engineering degree, so that if I don't make it as a driver, I can easily switch and go become an engineer for a race team, or a shop company. There's in the audience, we have an engineer for a chassis manufacturer for the IRL. So I mean, there's women can do just about anything.
From officials in the Winston Cup level as well, to fabricators in the shop, to team owners. There's owners that are like young ladies out there. So yeah, they're covering the sport, but just not as many.
We just happen to be the ones on TV.
Yeah.
The ones that get all
We
that
get more
media
exposure.
Just for a quick question there, if there's young girls out there that don't have a family that's already into it, what would be your suggestion of backdoor ways of getting in, or different ways of getting into the sport? What kind of education, what kind of experience out there?
I think be at the racetrack. I mean, hang out at the racetrack, pick a team to like I said earlier, get in their face, be around all the time, go to the shop, sweep the floor, learn, ask questions.
I think education
Gaining
is
experience
important
and
as well.
education.
Yeah.
Sure.
When my senior year of high school, my father passed away, and at that point, he was my full support in racing. And from then, I continued to race a random sprint car race here or a random stock car race here. But I went to school the entire time, and just 2 years ago is when I really started to get back into it. But I got that engineering degree now, as of Saturday. So.
I'm curious in terms of the sport itself. Do you see it more as a solo sport, or do you see it as a team sport? And I'm wondering, I mean, I hear you talk about family members and how important that is in terms of being able to get on the track and do what you're doing and keep doing what you're doing. You talk about needing sponsorship, which seems in some ways also that it has this team element to it. And I'm wondering if that's not some of the difficulty between, I mean, you're in the car, you're the one driving it, and yet what you need is you need people who are putting the engines and the wheels and all of that together. So can you speak to how you balance that in terms of the sport, either as a solo sport or as a team sport?
It's definitely as much a team sport as football is, because as a driver, we couldn't do what we do without, especially at the top levels, a good pit crew like Shauna's putting together, There's no way just one person could do it on their own at the top levels that we're trying to all reach.
It's absolutely a team sport, and you have to get the team working together. And so often you'll find the driver and the chief mechanic yelling at each other, and you might as well put the car on the trailer and go home. Yeah. But the crew that I assembled when I ran my own team here in '78, we had a reunion this last weekend, and it was just so wonderful to see those guys again and know how closely we worked together to achieve that 9th place finish 25 years ago, and to have them all come back 25 years later was a very emotional thing. But you have to work together. It's definitely a team sport.
I think more it needs to be not just a team, but a family where you can trust each other and you can depend on each other. And, even 25 years later, that's more of a family. And so you're going to go that extra mile for each other.
How much responsibility, before we get to the next question, how much responsibility as a driver do you take for the morale of your team and the formation of your team?
It's key. But I know that's something that Bobby has said to me, is that he said, I always drove like I had to prove myself every time. So we all feel like that. All drivers feel like they really we control a lot of the emotional environment.
They feed off of you.
Yeah, exactly.
Your emotion feeds to theirs.
Right.
If they see you down about something, it's gonna
bring everybody.
I've always been told along the way,
if you don't have confidence in yourself, you can't expect anybody else to. Right. So certainly not your crew who's working their butts off to try and get you out there. So
they're with you every lap. I mean, if you have a bad day and you're down, and they're going to be down, and then they have to face the other team members, and they have to defend you because they're your team, and that's what they do. And so I think if you don't have a team that believes in you and you don't believe in them, then you're never going to be successful.
I know I always try to pump my team up when I'm on the radio with them, because everyone has a radio headset on that's with your particular team. So, you really try to jazz them up with some encouraging, comments like, way to go, guys, that was a great stop, let's keep it going. Because, not everyone's going to finish first. And when you pull in the pits after a race and you finish 5th, 4th, 10th or 30th in a wreck, you still pat them on the back and say, that was a great job, let's get them next week.
Because they work so hard. I mean, they make a lot of sacrifices.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we're the ones who are in the limelight, and we're there every weekend, and we work hard, but they're working just as hard, if not harder than we are. And they don't get, they don't get someone to say, hey, can I have your autograph, and that rewarding feeling, or they don't get the trophy, you get the trophy. And so I think you need to encourage them even more, because a lot of them have families and they're gone on weekends, and they sacrifice a lot to be involved in racing.
First of all, I'd like to, as a professor here at the University of Indianapolis, welcome you to the university here. Thank you. And it's been a very interesting discussion. I'm a professor in the School of Business, and I'm often asked questions from my students or been told they'd like to be a CEO someday. And I have a favorite question that I ask them back, and that is, why do you want to be a CEO? So my question to you would be, why do you want to be a race car driver?
We're going to get 21 different answers.
And I just like the competitiveness, and I just have that desire, burning desire inside me, that I just really love every aspect of it.
It's like, even though you've done better or it looks good, it's like it's not good enough. It's got to be better. And so it's always a challenge.
A lot of us are perfectionists up here.
If you've ever driven a race car or done anything that's just a total adrenaline rush, you would understand exactly what we all feel when we're in that car.
I think that motorsport at the top level is the most challenging, demanding activity in the entire world. I mean, it's concentration, judgment, emotional detachment, desire, a really strong desire, and you have to use everything you've got, and then you have to find about 10% more than that. And whenever you extend yourself that far, you get back the internal reward, and that's what makes it so addicting.
Are you preparing the way for the next girls to come along?
Too young to think about Ultimately, I've got my own to deal with, but I think that there are other people
I
who
think
probably
you're,
can.
I think you're doing it by
Right.
you going
Yeah,
out there and
true.
getting sponsorship and having success. That's it right there.
Us being successful will open more doors. I mean, just the way Janet being successful opened some doors for us. The more females that are successful, the less doubts people will have that females really can't do it. Because
And when
we've
you have
shown
little
that we
girls
can.
coming up to you, giving you gifts of T-shirts of their own, or their own little autograph cards, or sending you these long letters in the mail saying, "Will you please be my pen pal? I think you're so neat and you're so amazing." Not that I want to be a race car driver, but they still put you in that limelight. So that's a mentorship, I think, in our levels, because like Danica was saying, we spend so much time trying to pursue our own career because it's a 24 hours a day job.
But I guess, like she said, that is a role model in its own. Is that look how much look what she's doing,
Yeah,
what she's accomplished,
absolutely.
and just by doing that is
Just going out and being competitive and going to higher levels. The more women that do that, the more the younger girls are going to see that, and they're going to say, okay, well, all these women did it, and I can do it too. And that's going to open the eyes of everyone, not just little girls. It's going to open the eyes of companies and everything. It just takes more women getting out there and being successful.
I also work with programs and go to schools and talk to the little kids and say, yes, you can do it. Come do it. And they look up to you so much. And just seeing them look at you and smile just makes you have the best day. And at the track, at the schools, anywhere, just having it just makes your day by having that.
It works for everybody.
Yeah.
When I started out, I thought that if I did all the right things and I won races and I was a good driver and did all the things that I thought at the time it took to be a race car driver, that people would see that and eventually I'd move right up and what I wanted to eventually accomplish would happen. And what I found is that there's so much more than just being a good spokesperson for your sponsor and being a good driver, that we really do have to dive more into the marketing side of things and understand what it is that these companies want to achieve out of sponsoring a car. It's not enough to say, give me $3 million and I'll put your name on the side of my car. They need to increase sales they have something specific that they want out of it. And I think we need to understand that to bring those sponsors in. And that's what I try and give to kids that come up to me, and whether they're male or female, and say, I really want to do this. What's the advice? You'd think it'd be, get lots of seat time or do this or that. And I tell them, you're going to do that anyway because that's what you want to do. Spend the time to work on the marketing, understand that, go to school, and at least have a background of knowledge in that information. And I think that's going to pay off for them much more than any driving experience we can give them, because they're doing everything they can already do to make the driving side happen.
The business world and the world of sponsors we're talking about should know that one day a woman will win the Indianapolis 500, and one day a woman will win the Daytona 500. And when that happens, the sponsor of that car is going to reap rewards beyond their wildest dreams.
On behalf of the Lynn St. James Foundation, I'd like to thank everyone who participated in and contributed to this event. To the University of Indianapolis for providing such an excellent venue. And a special thank you to Dawn Riley and the Women's Sports Foundation for their tireless and ongoing efforts to create greater opportunities and recognition for women in all sports. And a big thank you to all the women drivers who were here today. They truly represent a driving force for diversity, and they are women in the winner's circle. And thank you for joining us.